sharing. It is so profoundly not being understood or used on this planet that you go into sorrow and grief, some even suffering, because you think you've lost the leadership or the wisdom or that. You know you have not. Not really. There is so much more. I will continue talking about it. It's too important not to. I am Kryon, in love with all of you. And so it is.
And just allow a moment for that message to keep continuing through the cells of your body. Take a few deep breaths. And when your awareness is back into your body, you can open your eyes if you've had them closed. And we're now moving into the next section of our program, and I am super excited, Lee, to have our guest today, which is Isabelle Benarous. And I have to say, I've personally had sessions with her and done workshops with her, and I can't get enough of the knowledge of this woman.
I agree fully. In fact, you are the one who cued me into her originally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I remember the first time I heard her speak on stage, and the information she brought just left my mouth open, because there are things that I did not expect. Mm-hmm. And it's one thing to, and I'll say, to describe a process or to interview somebody, but the results speak for themselves.
Absolutely. But let's just make sure Isabelle is there. Isabelle, are you here with us?
I'm here. Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Monica.
Welcome, welcome. And for those of you who have never been introduced to Isabelle, Lee and I would love to just tell you a little bit about her before she shares what she has.
Isabelle Benarous is an international speaker, a consultant, an author, and the founder of Bio Reprogramming Institute. Mm-hmm. She's an expert in psychology of change and specializes in the resolution of emotional distress leading to health disorders. Now, that's a mouthful, and we're gonna simplify that and give you just a little bit better idea as we go.
Now, her extensive experience as both a trainer in biological decoding and a trainer in neurolinguistic programming, those two things actually led Isabelle to create the comprehensive and transformative approach of bio reprogramming. Now, this permits the identification of the emotional conflicts while providing individuals with concrete and powerful solutions. I love that, Lee, because who cares about identifying stuff if you don't have a solution?
If you haven't noticed, and I'll say this too, is that in order for a healer to come on our show, mm-hmm. we've got to know that the other side of this is that there's got to be remedy, there's got to be solution.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so the solutions that Isabelle is helping individuals receive is that they can achieve their emotional healings and then transform their lives.
She's dedicated to inspiring others to become masters of their own healing. Mm-hmm. Now, if you want to say that 3 times, I think you'll understand. It's just a little different than some others. And to offer therapists and healthcare practitioners a new vision, mm-hmm. total new vision for approaching illness. Yeah. Her healing methods have been proven at the highest level of success, and her work has touched and changed the lives of many people worldwide. I know this. I have seen the testimonies. Mm-hmm. I have heard this from many.
Now, if you've never heard of biodecoding, it is the profound connection between the emotional conflicts and the health issues. Now, here's a few questions. Is it possible that our beliefs and our perceptions can influence our health and how our organs act as the messengers of our unresolved issues? And can our subconscious programs that we inherit from our parents during gestation, can that influence our destiny?
That is a profound one.
Aren't they profound
questions?
That
is probably the most profound one for me.
Mm-hmm. And if so, if that's really the case, well, how can we regain free will?
So we have opened an enormous bag here for you, Isabelle, especially for those who probably have not even heard of this. So I'm going to turn it to you and let you go and just tell us all about it.
Thank you. Yes, it's a very interesting new paradigm because we could wonder, why do people get sick? Why do people get illnesses at any age? It doesn't really matter. Children, older, people who are eating healthy, doing everything right, exercising. And it was discovered years and years ago by doctors who studied this, that people get sick after a shock. Something happens in their lives that they could not anticipate, something that they did not expect, which is going to make their level of stress rise. And so when our level of stress becomes unmanageable, meaning we don't have a solution for the stress because now we are thinking about finding consciously a solution, but we think about it night and day and night. It can be a man who is suddenly fired. It can be a woman who is going through a breakup. It can be a grandmother whose grandchild is sick. Those are the things that happen in life that we don't expect. And when we don't have an immediate solution for it, and when our level of stress goes too high, then unfortunately, it's dangerous for us. It could mean that now we don't see the dangers in the environment, because you know what it's like when we dwell on a problem. We don't eat, we don't sleep. Our mind is constantly preoccupied. And the brain records the fact that now I'm preoccupied, now I'm not eating, now I'm not sleeping, I'm getting exhausted. I don't know how to behave in my own environment, and I could die. So the subconscious mind, which is programmed in terms of conservation of the species or the survival mainly, the subconscious mind is going to provide a solution biologically so that I can liberate my mind from the conflict that is consuming me. So it means that if I cannot swallow the fact that I was fired, my throat becomes the targeted organ. In my throat, I have cells, and if I cannot swallow something, maybe if I multiply cells and I create a specific mucus through, unfortunately, a tumor, then symbolically it permits me to slide down a morsel. But if my felt experience is I cannot digest what was done to me, something happened, and it feels that there's a big morsel that is indigestible in my belly, then symbolically it means I need more gastric sugar to digest that morsel. So again, a cell proliferation which creates more digestive enzymes could be the solution to my problem. So in other words, our wonderful organs have the potential to produce solutions for what we cannot solve in our mind, but those solutions are archaic, meaning they are coming from 4.5 million years of evolution on the planet. We've always known how to evolve on the planet based on our needs. If I have a need, I create the organ that is going to permit me to stay on the planet longer. And so it's fascinating because when someone has an illness, it could be a backache, it could be a neck ache, it can be as simple as that. There is right before that illness a story that we can talk about, and we can figure out, well, what happened to you that bothered you, that you could not resolve on the spot, and that's something that's still lingering in your mind, and now you have an emotional conflict, and your body is expressing a solution for you. So interestingly, when we go back in time and we figure out what is the event directly related to the illness, what triggered it, then we have the opportunity to also look at, okay, during that event, what was my perception? How did I perceive this event? And if I can change my belief system surrounding the event, if I can change my perception and look at it differently, then I have a solution in my conscious mind. And the solution that I have in my conscious mind, once provided to my brain, permits my brain to let go of the biological solution that it provided instead. Interestingly, there is only one moment in time for our subconscious brain. The past does not exist, the future does not exist, it only functions in the present time. So in the present time, I am going to offer a solution during a therapy session or in a moment in which maybe I work on myself. How could I have perceived that situation so that it doesn't get me in high stress? Because if I am caught off guard in high stress, my body will express a solution. And then by changing my perception, by changing my belief system, the illness very often is no longer needed. If I can digest the morsel that I could not digest 2 months ago because I was fired, or if I can swallow the fact that maybe something happened in my family that I didn't like, then all of a sudden the illness is no longer necessary. So it's really fascinating to work on issues.
I think it's completely fascinating. And Isabelle, because I've done some of the training with you and I read your newsletters, which are extremely valuable. So that also I would encourage our viewers to sign up for Isabelle's newsletter, because there's always these interesting tidbits about how our biology works. But I would love for you to share with us, because we learn from when we have an actual case of someone having an issue and then how they work through resolving. So if you have one or two of those cases where you've helped people move through some issues, we'd love to hear them.
Yes, absolutely. There was this woman who had breast cancer, and she had went to many therapists, but no one could really pinpoint what was going on for some reason. In fact, I asked her, well, what's really bothering you the most? We knew it was about her children. She was a nurse, and she said to me, well, what's hard for me is that I leave my house at 8 p.m. at night when they go to bed, and they cry. They cry when I leave. I have 2 little girls, and they hold on to my skirt and say, Mommy, stay home. And it's heartbreaking, and I feel like I'm a very bad mother. Mm-hmm. I cannot take care of them properly. I go to work, and I come in the morning, and they're ready to go to school, and I miss all that time at night. We could watch a movie. And so she triggered a breast cancer, because breast cancer on the left side, particularly if you're right-handed, means this is my offspring. I want to nurture my offspring, but I have what's called a maternal impossibility. I cannot do it the way I would like to do it because I'm limited. And so I am going to use my breast to produce more cells so that symbolically I have more milk to give to my child. Remember that it's an archaic solution from the subconscious mind. And so I told her, but what bothers you the most in that story? She says, it's because they cry. To see my children cry, my girls cry, is heartbreaking for me every night. Mm-hmm. And so I told her, what do you look like when you leave? And she said, well, I look sad. I look sad. I almost cry myself, and I push them away. And I said, well, do you love your job? And she said, yeah, I do. And I said, well, would you like your children to be proud of you that you're working? And do you realize that actually it's a very positive thing to see that they have a courageous mom that's going to work and she loves what she's doing? I said, yeah, I never thought of that, but how can I be happy? I said, just show them at the moment you pass the door, just show them your happiness about going to work. What would happen if you smiled and looked like a happy woman? So she started it after our session right away, and she started to say, hey guys, I'm going to work. I'll see you tomorrow. I'm so happy. I'm going to help people. I'm going to make some money. I'm going to, it's my job. Love it. Kiss, kiss, bye. And then slowly the children got used to a happy mom. And they started to smile. They started to laugh when she was leaving. Sometimes they would not even say goodbye because they were so happy. They were playing, and she was just happy. And so the conflict was resolved. The pain was had gone away. The children were laughing and healthy, and she didn't feel guilty anymore. And the next thing you know, 2 months later, when she did the test again, her cancer was gone.
Wow.
This is what
That is amazing.
Yes, these are the kinds of stories that I've had that from many sources that people have a hard time with. Could it really be that way, you know?
And I think the secret, and I like to actually call Isabelle an investigative journalist.
Journalist.
Because it's investigating to get to that moment. That's what you actually began with your introduction, is that there is a moment that happens for the subconscious. So, you know, all the therapies, maybe some of them can help, but what that lady needed was to investigate the moment or what it was that was happening for the subconscious and to change that perception.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's that very moment, because it takes an instant for the brain to create an illness, and it's based on one specific perception at what moment in time. So we could say a moment before that perception, it doesn't matter. Later doesn't matter. It's not a general idea of a problem. It's this one thing that I cannot digest, or this one thing that bothered me. And when we think of our own problems, sometimes if we want to, what we call chunk it down, we can ask ourselves, what's really bothering me about this? It's not the overall thing, it's this one thing that resonates with me deep inside, that reminds me of something, maybe of my childhood. There's an entire iceberg that's resurfacing right now, and I cannot control my stress right now because I don't have a solution.
Are you seeing an increase in people having emotional conflicts at this time during the COVID lockdown?
Well, yes, I see, so different conflicts create different illness, as you know very well. Depression is the illness that is being created now, because depression is about self-devaluation and guilt. Also, some people have fear. So there is this anxiety and also the fear of the future. What is my life going to be? Who am I becoming? Am I going to be able to work? Interestingly, for as long as there is hope and a window, people often don't fully get sick. They just maintain a low-grade anxiety because they have a notion that, oh, maybe we'll get out of it. But for some people who lost work or lost their territory or their career, their job, their shop, whatever their business was, that can definitely create an illness. I see a lot of anxiety, for sure.
I'd like to just touch on it, because I know it's a very big subject, about things that would happen during gestation that might then influence you later.
Yes, that's really fascinating. I was very interested in working on that, because I could tell, even looking at my life, that I was producing or reproducing things that belonged to my parents. Some of us notice that already, because we're not born with a blank slate. We start our life at the moment of conception. That's a very important moment, where the ovum meets the sperm, and in that very moment, in the belly of our mom, we start downloading our parents' perceptions, their emotions, their conflicts, their fears, their stresses, and what is it that we do with it, that we do having that in our biology and subconscious mind. Well, on the same, at the same level of what I explained at the very beginning, which was the stress needs to be lowered, the child, the fetus, becomes the target of the thoughts of the parents. And if the parents have a conflict, that conflict is transmitted at a subconscious level. And we are going to replay that conflict in different ways. We can either repeat the conflict in our lives, or we can solve the conflict. Let me give you an example. Imagine a woman who is pregnant, and while she's pregnant, she's very unhappy. She does not want to stay with her husband. He's drinking. She's got 2 babies, though, already. And then now she has a 3rd child. And she's dreaming, thinking about, I want to separate from this man. That would be my solution for the future. That would be the solution for my life. But I can't. Because I don't have money. I depend on him. I'm married to him. It would be too complicated. But while she's pregnant, let's say it's a girl, the girl is going to download the conflict about wanting to separate. I want to separate, but I can't separate. And interestingly, this is called a project. I have the project of separating, but I can. Then the child, the girl who is going to be born, is going to have a very interesting destiny. She's going to attract circumstances in terms of separation. She's going to have a first boyfriend at 17, separate. We could say, okay, that's normal, they're young. But then she's going to have an engagement at 21 with whom she thinks is the love of her life. But they're going to separate. It's not going to work out. And then maybe when she is 25, she finally gets married. Everything looks wonderful. But 5 years later, they divorce. And then she has another boyfriend in her 40s, but it doesn't work out. They separate. So the theme in her life is separation. She separates because symbolically she is expressing a solution to the stress of her mother who could not separate.
So if that's the way it is, the solution to this, would that be her awareness of this so she could break that chain and stop the conflicts? I mean, what's next on that?
So the solution actually is unconscious. So unconsciously she has a loyalty to her mom by separating, thus fixing her stress, while consciously she wants the opposite. She wants a beautiful relationship with a man that she loves and stays with her. And you're right, she's going to want to consciously fix that. But unless she makes the connection between, oh, this belongs to my mother, what am I doing? I'm repeating a story for her. She's the one who wanted to separate when she was pregnant with me. And I'm not the one who wants to do that. I'm going to give this back to her symbolically. And she could give it back to her mom in a symbolic way. She can write a letter that she will not give her mom, but she could write a letter saying, this does not belong to me. I'm giving this back to you, mom. Or she can claim it, say it out loud, or do, a little ceremony with herself. And finally, let go of it so that she no longer repeats it.
I love what you were saying in writing a letter symbolically. So because we're dealing with the subconscious, you're using the example of using symbology. Explain to us how important is symbology and perception for the subconscious.
Yes. Symbology is very important because the subconscious does not have time to waste with content. The reason is when we are in nature, we don't have time to think. It's our instinct. So the brain is going to see, the metaphor of things so that it can act very quickly and save our lives. It doesn't have energy to calculate with what we're thinking with our thoughts because we're putting too much element with our thoughts. So that's why, like you were saying before, Monica, it's so important to be on target because if we feed the subconscious a huge, long story, the subconscious is lost. What is she talking about? But if we go, okay, look, my mom was unhappy, which is an emotion, unhappy, suffering, and wanted to separate, the feeling of separation. She wanted to separate from this man, but couldn't. Already I'm targeting. And now if I write, it becomes a symbolic act, just like, fire transforms, for instance. If I write, it's kinesthetic. So I'm writing with my hand, and then my subconscious mind loves the symbol of giving back. It's a symbolic self. Here it is, my conflict, and now I'm giving it back to you because it belongs to you. It's a beautiful act because it means I understand you, Mom, and I'm going to help you by creating a wonderful relationship.
Yeah.
Versus helping you by separating all the time.
And just for clarity, I know that this can be done for a parent who's passed as well. I mean, they don't even have to be here because of what you are doing for yourself. I have kind of a hard one, and I just thought of this now. It's